Welcome to the Market Mystics podcast, where we discuss what's happening in the cryptosphere and trading on Earth as it is in heaven. Buckle up and huddle on while we dive in and get weird. Here are your hosts, Joshua and Kim.
Good afternoon, all you wacky weird mystics. Welcome to Mystic Monday. What's up today, Kim?
Not a whole lot. New week. We just, full disclosure, we didn't have a whole lot that we were like, I don't know, raring to go about talking about today. So we decided we're just going to have a conversation.
Yeah. We have a general idea, but it's not very, flushed
Not
out.
concrete yet. Yeah. And most of the time on our podcast, we're just recapping conversations we've already had.
True.
Sorry. Yeah. It just tends to happen.
That's
so
very
now you
true.
get the original.
The unfiltered original conversation.
Yep.
Well, before we get into that, let's run through some quick market updates. So we have Bitcoin. It's up 3.3% in 24 hours, but it's up 11.6% in 7 days. It's at 22,300. So if you listen to our episode from last Wednesday, I believe it was 18 something or maybe even 17 something. That's a pretty significant move from the last time we recorded. Ethereum is down 2% in 24 hours, but it's still up basically 10% over 7 days. It's at 1,700. I looked, it was 1,500 last time we recorded. So still doing pretty good there as well.
Yeah.
The top mover in the top 100 in the past 24 hours is a coin called Raven coin. This was new for me. I had never heard of this coin before. Its symbol is RVN. It's the number 65 coin. In 24 hours, it's up 21%, and in 7 days, it's up 84%. Currently trading at about 6 cents.
Wow.
Ravencoin is a digital peer-to-peer network that aims to implement a use case specific blockchain designed to effectively handle one specific function, the transfer of assets from one party to another. It's also built on a fork of the Bitcoin code. So I don't know exactly what all that means. I didn't dive too much into it, but that is Ravencoin, and it is zooming the past 7 days.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's dive into our topic.
Let's do it.
First, we were talking about Twitter because I get sucked into a Twitter feed every now and then. Honestly, I'm not real active on Twitter. I just go in to clear out notifications.
Yeah.
And then I get sucked in. So as we were chatting about our Twitter feeds, this is one of the things that came up. Josh, I'll let you start it out because you're the one who had the original knowledge.
Yeah. So it was just kind of so we started the conversation by bringing up, I saw an article about Elon Musk being sued. I think the article said something like for creating a pyramid scheme around Dogecoin.
Mm-hmm.
And you found an article from Reuters that says Elon is being sued for $258 billion by Dogecoin investor who accused him of running a pyramid scheme to support the cryptocurrency. And as you know, it's just very things like that probably aren't super uncommon. People are always trying to sue wealthy people for a various assortment of reasons. But it's interesting because it's around Dogecoin, which Elon was a big supporter of, so that's kind of interesting. But then it led to a video that I saw either on Twitter or TikTok. I don't remember where I saw it, but Dave Portnoy, the founder of Barstool Sports, had a guy show up at his house and leave a lawsuit because he was promoting SafeMoon, and this guy lost money on his investment in SafeMoon because he listened to this other voice. And that just started kind of a conversation with us. I mean, you guys have heard us talk about all the time, like do your own research, but it kind of started this conversation of like, well, where did you hear that information? Like, where did it come from? Was it, is it a valid source? Is it trustworthy? And the challenging thing is both of these cases are caused because someone listened to a voice that they thought they trusted and they had a negative outcome.
Mhm.
And I would argue that they probably didn't do their own research. They probably just said, hey, this voice that I'm familiar with is telling me that this is a good idea. So I'm going to do it.
Right. Although I don't even know, I'm just going to interject here because I don't even know that either of these guys said this is a good idea, but they said this is what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's almost
I
like,
don't know for sure, but yeah.
right. And I think that's the basis of it. I think the reason that like the lawsuit with Elon was dropped, it was filed in June, like mid-June. It was dropped because there was no recommending that people invest in this. He was just saying he's investing in it. And it's
Right.
kind of the same thing that's happening with Dave Portnoy. Um, he said, this is what I'm investing in. This is what I believe in. He's not saying you should invest in this. And so there's
Right.
this line of like looking to other people and what they're doing and hopping on board as well.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't even know that they were told to do something. It's just
Mm,
like following a voice, following someone whom they think is a leader. And I'm just gonna guess, just this is pure guess. They probably don't know these guys.
right. Not personally, right.
Right.
Yeah, and the other thing that I don't know about Elon because I don't know when he got in and out of Doge. But I do know that Dave Portnoy also lost money on his SafeMoon investment. And so, I think it's it would be hard to make any lawsuit stick on that because it's not like he invested in it and then pumped it up with all of his followers and then suddenly, got out at the top. That's not what happened for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think that's probably the argument that people had with Elon or Dave was, hey, you used your platform to spread this message and then you profited from it. But I'm not entirely sure that in either case that's what happened.
Right. Uh, Portnoy was on Twitter and said, thought I was under attack. This is when the guy was pounding on his door. Nope, just telling me I was getting sued for shilling SafeMoon. I'm the only guy who loses all of his money in SafeMoon and gets sued for it.
Right.
So he put in $40,000 and has never taken any out. And he said that his balance is now like 2370 hundred 2300 from 40,000, and
Yeah,
he's getting sued for someone else investing in it because he did.
that's so funny to me. But, that I think that happens all the time. Celebrity endorsements are not a new thing. And I wouldn't even say neither of these two were official celebrity endorsements. They were just simply voices that have a following who said this is what I'm enjoying doing.
I think we live in the time of the influencer, like the social
Mm,
media influencer. And that's essentially what these guys are. If they have a
right.
big following, they're influencers. Kim
Yes.
Kardashian is an influencer. If she
Right.
tells me to use her face cream and it makes me break out, do I then have the right to sue her because she said it was good?
Right. Yeah. Probably. Yeah. It's so interesting that Okay, especially in the crypto scene. I know we talked about this around the Super Bowl, but it was Binance, I believe, who didn't run any ads. Am I getting that right?
I
Was
think
it
that's
Binance?
right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was Binance who didn't run any ads during the Super Bowl because they didn't want people to be influenced by a popular face on something that they didn't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such a oh
Responsible.
man, it's such a responsible thing. And they probably could have run advertisements and gotten people to invest in something. And yeah, it probably could have really been beneficial for their company. But instead, they said, no, like investing's a serious thing. Like you're putting money at risk, and some people put everything they had at risks. Not everybody, everybody invested differently.
Right.
And I think that there's such a really interesting thing about paying people to promote a product that it's possible they don't even use, they don't like, they know
They don't
nothing
know anything
about.
about.
Right. It's different. I would almost argue that Elon and Dave are a different it's different than a paid advertiser
Mm-hmm.
because they were talking about something they were using,
Right.
which is different than somebody just being paid to promote a product. But even still, just talking about something you're using doesn't mean that that something you're using is going to long term be a good thing.
Right. Right. Well, and neither of them represent themselves as financial advisors.
Right.
They don't. They talk about what they do financially.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but listen, Elon talks about freaking everything,
He does. That's
right?
true.
And case in point, he's the one, or it's his company. It was SpaceX that put out the flamethrower, and Elon said, "Do not buy this."
Mm-hmm.
And then they sold out.
Right.
So, I mean, what do you want to do what he says and have him be in trouble? You want to not do what he says and then have him be in trouble? It just is this crazy thing, right? Just because he has a voice. And
Yeah.
can you sue someone because they have a large following for on a social network saying what they're doing? That's what the social network is for,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
He's not like going in the Wall Street Journal and saying, I'm buying this much Dogecoin on this date,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's
Right.
not happening. It is social media where people
Yeah.
also post pictures of the cats.
Yeah. And various other body parts. I This is something. Okay, let's tie this into Mystic Monday. I think so. The topic we've been discussing is people using their platform, their voice to talk about their current journey and other people blindly following
Mm-hmm. Does it sound
without
familiar?
without doing their own research, without doing anything else. And while we were discussing this, I was like, man, that sounds a lot like religion. Like people going and listening to a voice just because that voice has a platform and saying, "Oh, that sounds good. That makes me feel good when I hear it." And not actually like digging into it, figuring it out. And man, I just think that in each case it's going to lead to destruction or could lead to destruction. I mean, depending on when you listen to Elon or Dave talk about Safe Moon or Doge, you could have potentially made a ton of money. Like, but either way, it could have gone either way. But I think that's so interesting. Okay, here's just another thought. I recently went to a conference over Labor Day weekend, and the person teaching said, I don't want you to believe anything I say. I want you to take it home, and I want you to like be skeptical, like figure it out. Like don't just believe it because it came out of my voice. And I so respected that because my experience in Western church has been, if you questioned what came out of the pulpit, then you you didn't have faith, you didn't believe, you shouldn't be part of that body, like you were shunned for having questions. At least that's been my experience. I don't want to blanket say that's for everybody, but that's been my experience. And it was so interesting to be around someone who encouraged you to question what was being brought from the pulpit, basically saying, do your own research. Like, don't just take my experience, don't just take my understanding, don't just take my revelation. Like, I'm not here to baby bird you. I'm here to like help show you the way to get your own meal.
Right. Well, and I would hope that this is what people have heard from us, like
Mm,
throughout this podcast. We talk about a lot of like kind of push you out of your comfort zone kind of things. But all the time, we want you to go and get that for yourself. Like, if this is a
yeah,
concept that you're going, oh my gosh, do I need to do this? Then you need to go have the relationship yourself
yeah.
with the Lord and figure it out yourself. Right. So it's going and doing your own research. It may be going and searching the scriptures. It may be going and fasting and praying. It may be going and meditating. Any of these things, but it's it's a rough road when you start taking the word of man as the word of God,
Mm,
even though he can speak through
mhm,
like people, through man, whatever his
mhm,
creation. I mean, he can speak through any of his creation, but to take it as that person is the source, then you're putting your, we talk about this all the time too, the source, like you're misaligning the source, right?
mm,
You're saying this person is that. And I've seen so many people. I'll tell you this. We have a church that we lead, and over the years we have both experienced church hurt um in other congregations, also in our own, and we've had people who have experienced church hurt themselves. And what I have found, and from my experience, this is me personally, that so much of it comes from looking to a man to be the source of something
mm,
without taking what they're saying and taking it back to the Lord.
right.
You know what I mean? So when you're looking at a person, if it's the pastor, if it's the leader of this certain ministry, if it's this voice that has a name in the world,
Mhm,
right? And you're saying, but they said this, and that has to be true, even though you are saying that you've had this other experience and this is what you're doing. Like, this is what religion does, is it takes
mm,
away from the relationship and it says, no, you do this because this is what you do. No need to have the relationship to verify that.
right.
Right.
Mm,
And that's a rough place to be, but it goes so in line with this stuff. Like, why are we suing people for sharing what they're doing, blindly following them, and
mm,
then it not working out for you?
right.
And this
Yeah.
is what we do in the church. We listen to someone's personal encounter, their personal experience, their personal walk. We hear concepts taught that should encourage you and spur you on to go seek that relationship yourself and see what the Lord has for you. But instead, you hold the person accountable for what they've experienced because it doesn't happen for you too.
Mm,
And I would even argue, and this is one of my big beefs sometimes, is I would argue that if that's happening in your heart, you're blaming other people for your lack of relationship, your lack of advancement in the faith. I would say you're putting someone else in the spot in which the Father needs to be.
Yeah.
There's some sort of idol, because if you're relying on a man or a person to fill that role and fulfill you in that way, it's idolatry.
Mhm. Yeah. And
There, off my soapbox.
I mean, we talk about this all the time, but it's the source of supply being out of a line. I mean,
Mhm.
it's, it isn't, there's nothing inherently wrong with listening to Elon talk about what he's investing in because he's a
Right.
successful man.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with listening to what your pastor's learning, what his revelation is, because he has a relationship. But if you ever put those two out of the proper alignment, instead of just being, hey, this is what I experienced, and then you take that and test it and apply it to your own life and have a conversation with the Father about it, like that's a proper way to utilize the information that's coming from these other voices, which there's nothing wrong with learning from other voices,
Absolutely.
but it's the source of supply. Like, where is, if that person becomes your source for revelation or your source for investment knowledge, then suddenly you've you have put someone in a place where they shouldn't be.
Mhm. Mhm. I completely agree. I think it's so important to have like testimonies of other people and what has
Mhm.
worked for them, and that's part of doing your own research, right? Um, but to have that as the end point is a very dangerous and slippery slope.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Mm.
Especially like if we're talking about religion, allowing another person to be the end point of how you figure things out, you're missing it, right? They should be on the path to figuring it out, because
Mm.
the end point should be the Lord. It should be Yahweh. It should be the Father, whatever
Mhm.
you want to call him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm, yeah, no, I agree. I think it's probably a little bit trickier in investing, but maybe not, you know, maybe not. I don't know.
I
I was
mean,
gonna s I
how
was
do
gonna
we
say it's,
invest?
yeah, I mean, that's where my mind went, was like, it's harder to learn investment without learning it from man, and I was like, well, man, Kim
Mm,
and I have been investing for over 2 years now, doing it exclusively with how we hear Father lead us, and, like, we've grown in that, and,
absolutely.
um, yeah. So
And
I think it's totally possible, but I would also say, don't just do that because we told you that that's what we do. Go
right.
do your own research.
I, I have to agree, because you know what? We talked about this, it was months ago. There was this conference that
Mhm.
we attended because we really felt like we were supposed to, like the Lord told us to do it. And it was about cryptocurrency and trading. And there was so much that was taught in this conference about how and why and things like that, that was counter to what we have been told from the Lord. And these are people who we respect, we know them, we trust their faith. Um, and the end point was like, originally it was like, oh, well, they must be wrong or we must be wrong. So we either question what the Father's told us or we
Yeah.
question what the Father's told them. But what wound up happening, I mean, it was really a learning process, at least for me. I don't know about for you, Josh.
Mm,
What wound up happening was the Lord going, no, I told them that because that's how they need to function. And that's what they need to do. And I told you this because this is how you need to function and how you
mm,
need to trade. Right. So when we say this, it's so important to have that source, because it's probably not going to look the same for everybody. And it probably shouldn't, because if everybody on the planet invested in Doge because Lord Elon said to do it, right? Then everything else would tank. It would all complete, like if everyone put everything they had into this, right? There would be no
mhm.
balance. And why would we think that that is what the Father would want? You know what I mean? I don't know. I just think it's so important to get your own word, get your own revelation. And if you feel like you can't do it on your own, find somebody
Call us.
who can seek with you. Yeah, call us. I mean, this is what we do. I don't know if you know this. Okay. Let me just tell you a little bit about us. The podcast came after, so we own a business
Mhm.
and the podcast is part of that business. But originally, what the Lord told us to do was trade in cryptocurrency. And then all of a sudden he said, okay, now you need to start coaching people in how to trade. And it's actually not as financial advisors. It's about learning how to trade the way that he has made you to trade.
Yeah.
And so we have coaching appointments with people and we help seek the Lord with them and hear from him what they need to do and how.
Mhm.
And it has nothing to do with how I do it. It has nothing to do with how Josh does it, because again, it's kind of irrelevant how we do it. It's all about what has been set up for you. It's not prescriptive for the whole. It is like individualized for the person. And I think that's important. And I think it's the same in your faith walk. It's the same in trading. It's the same in relationships. It's the same in all the things.
Mm.
You got to find what was set apart for you.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. Well, if you guys are interested in any of our learning more about our business or connecting with us, for coaching or for having a conversation about the Lord, like we're happy to do that. Our website's actually upperroomcd.com. So you can find out more there. It stands for Upper Room Capital Development. And yeah, we would love to have a conversation with you guys more about that, because that is what we're passionate about. If you open our website, the first thing you'll see is trading on earth as it is in heaven and helping others do the same thing. And that's very much so what we love to do.
True. That is our calling. That is our purpose. At
True.
least for now, until he tells us different.
At least for now. All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us today. We'll see you soon.
Thank you for listening. Join us every Monday and Thursday as we discuss trading on earth as it is in heaven. If you want to connect further, follow us on social media at market.mystics for Instagram and TikTok, and search for Market Mystics on YouTube and Facebook. If you still need more, follow the link on Facebook to book a coaching appointment. Until next time, see ya.